Hello guys and welcome to my channel. Yeah, super fun. So this is my very first video on this channel and I'm super excited to be talking about a case that I found really interesting, and so let's get into it. So a lot of you guys have, I'm sure, been on TikTok during quarantine, and I mean, at least for me, it ranges anywhere from 2 hours a day to 9. So yes, it has become quite an addiction, and as of this week, the kind of trend of the week, I guess, is watching this movie called Megan is Missing. So if you guys don't know about this movie, it's basically a found footage-esque documentary, a bunch of different videos and news footage that came from a case that they had fabricated. So a lot of it is like FaceTime calls between two girls, and it's like this girl filming herself, much like YouTubers and vloggers do, you know, talking about her day and things like that. So it was trying to be almost a Blair Witch Project type of vibe. And so that movie has kind of been popping off right now. You can find it on YouTube. And I personally watched it a couple days ago. It was kind of interesting. It wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but overall, it got me curious, thinking, well, was there an actual case behind this that had inspired this movie? And there was. And I had done a little bit of research to find it, and it's the case of Miranda Gaddis and Ashley Pond. And so I'm going to talk about that case for you guys today. So if you're interested, please stay and listen to what I have to say. And if you aren't, well, you should still stay, because it's a really interesting case, and it's actually interesting how close it is to the actual plot of the movie. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so since this is my kind of first YouTube video, I had to do a lot of research to find a lot of the details about this true crime case, so I'm going to be looking at my computer a lot. I know a lot of my queens, Kendall Ray, Danielle Hallen, and Eleanor Neal, never have to do that, but I am not like you guys right now, so I will be looking down at my computer to follow my notes, but I'll try to be engage with you guys as much as possible, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to kind of talk about to you guys is describe who these people were, the two victims. So the first girl we're going to talk about, her name was Ashley Pond. They're both from Oregon City, Oregon, and Ashley Pond was 12 at the time of her disappearance, and she was just a few weeks shy of her 13th birthday. These two girls were in middle school, which is just something else to note. So Ashley's mother described her as someone who's very loud and outgoing type of girl. She just seemed like the type of person who would talk to everyone and just wanted to make as many friends as she could. And the one downside to this, though, is that people have a tendency to be overly trusting with other people. I know that even when I was young, I found myself talking to everybody, people I should not have been talking to, because I was just so curious about the world, and it's definitely a really good quality to have, but it does have a downside. So the second girl we're going to be talking about is named Miranda Gaddis. I hope I'm saying that correctly, I'm sorry if I'm not. And she was 13 at the time of her disappearance, and she was also described as someone who loved to dance and was just really had a lust for life, and she really enjoyed dancing, and something that she was really looking forward to before her disappearance was the dance recital that she was supposed to perform at, where I believe she had a solo. A couple of months before Ashley Pond's disappearance, the two girls were actually really good friends with this other girl. Her name was Mallory Weaver. A couple of weeks before Ashley Pond had gone missing, she and Miranda and also this girl named Mallory were all hanging out at Mallory's house. Now Mallory's father, Ward Francis Weaver III, was also there, and while he was there, and so later that night, after Ashley Pond had gone home, Ashley Pond had gone to her parents and confided in them that Mallory's father had actually tried to sexually assault her. So obviously very upset with this news, her parents had decided to go to the police and report this. However, I'm not really sure what had happened, but the police decided not to go through with pressing charges, or even, I don't think they did like a big investigation into the crime, which is very concerning, because if a young girl, and these girls were 12 at the time, had come and said that a man tried to be sexually inappropriate with these girls, I mean, you would think they would do something, but I guess not. So they did not follow through with the charges, and this happened in August of 2001, so a couple of months before. However, on January 9th, 2002, the day was pretty ordinary, the parents had said, and nothing was really out of the ordinary, everything seemed pretty normal. Ashley Pond had set off on her walk to go from her apartment complex to the bus stop, which I don't believe was super far away, maybe a 5-minute walk, not really sure. And it was revealed that Ashley Pond had actually never made it to the bus, let alone school, that day. So when her family found out, they were immediately very confused and scared. They knew that their daughter wouldn't run away. Although, when they did report it to the police, as they immediately did go to the police thought that maybe she had run away. I mean, she was 12, a teenager. However, due to her age, she was still 12. It was very unlikely she'd run away, so the police decided to take it super seriously. and they had created search parties to kind of go out and try to find her, because she was a 12-year-old girl alone in a city right now, and that's really not a great thing. After a few weeks, they still had no leads into the case, and they were kind of really unsure what direction to go in. I think a suspect that they did have, though, however, was Francis Ward Weaver, as he had tried to previously sexually assault Ashley Pond. However, I'm not sure why they didn't interview him. It just seems like, for whatever reason, they didn't believe he could do it, so I'm not really sure. Or maybe they just completely forgot, as they didn't really even look into the case, so maybe they thought it was just a coincidence. A lot of people in the community were actually rallying together and trying to raise money and awareness to try to bring Ashley Pond home. And one thing that her dance team did, as she was a part of the dance team with her friend Miranda, they had a benefit to raise reward money so that hopefully they could bring Ashley Pond home. And they actually had given her friend Miranda a solo to choreograph in her friend's honor, as they thought it would be a good way for Miranda to memorialize her friend Ashley. And at first, you know, Miranda was a little hesitant to do this, as she also did believe that her friend had run away. At first she said she was very scared. She was like, oh my gosh, what is my friend doing? And then she was very upset because she truly did believe Ashley had run away. And she was very upset with her friend that she would put everyone through this and make everyone nervous for what she believed to be nothing. She really truly did believe that her friend was safe. After the community had tried their hardest to find any leads, any information, it seems the case quickly dried up, as they had no suspects in custody. A little parched, sorry. However, 3 months after Ashley's disappearance, Miranda had also disappeared in a very similar manner. She was also on her way to the bus stop when she was also abducted, and she was also living in the same apartment complex as Ashley Pond was. So the cases were very closely related, and detectives immediately put this together that they believed it was the same person at work for both of these cases. After Miranda's disappearance, the cops really were nervous, and they really felt like this could turn into a serial killer type of situation, and so they immediately reached out to the FBI's Quantico team to have them profile the killer, and they came to Oregon City and they tried their best to profile the man. The task force was quickly assembled, and the FBI spokesperson with the name of Beth Ann Seal stated, "There is a growing belief that the cases are related, and while there's slight hope that they have run away, there is a growing belief that there was some kind of criminal activity involved." So although people in the community really were holding on to this hope that maybe the two girls had just run away and maybe Ashley had gone first and told her friend Miranda where she was, and that was kind of a theory that was going on, but it did seem more likely that this was just an abduction or some sort of criminal activity had been occurring that led this to happen. The first theory of the runaway was actually disproven by the parents, as they really felt like these two girls were not the type of people to run away. They truly were enjoying their life, and they had so much to look forward to. Both of these girls loved to dance, and it was said that they were really both looking forward to their dance recital. The FBI team also kind of interviewed the parents just to talk with them and see if they knew any information, and the mother of Miranda said her daughter was very intelligent and that she would most definitely have not gotten into a car with somebody that she did not know. So this kind of put investigators on the path of, okay, the girls must have known who this man was. It must have been someone that they have at least come into contact with and somewhat trusted, to an extent. So weeks, and if not months, had passed since the girls first disappeared, both of them. And now a lot of parents and families in the apartment complex where both of these girls lived were getting super nervous that their daughter might be next. I mean, both of these girls disappeared from the same apartment complex on their walk to school, and a lot of parents were just very nervous that their daughter might be next. And so a lot of families, 4 to be exact, took it on their own to just leave the apartment entirely and said that it just wasn't worth it to live there with fear of not knowing if their daughters could be next. Something else the community did that I thought was just really special was a lot of people had decided to start wearing yellow ribbons to remember them, and I think it was about 1,000 people, which was just really cool because they wanted to remember these girls and spread awareness and say these girls might be missing but they are not forgotten, and I just really like that concept and I like that idea. So the FBI task force from Quantico had actually started to put together a profile of the man who they believed to be guilty, and they already had one man on their radar that they were kind of suspecting, which was, you guessed it, Ward Francis Weaver III. He had a criminal history, and it had actually been revealed that his father had murdered a woman and buried her in the backyard. So when the investigators kind of heard this, they were definitely taken aback, and they were like, this is definitely some man that we need to look into, and so he was on their radar. However, I don't believe that they had questioned him at this point, or if they did, it was kind of just like a preliminary questioning. They didn't really connect him to the crime yet. So we're going to kind of shift focus from the investigation to Francis Ward Weaver. Ward Francis Weaver III was born April 6, 1963 in Humboldt County, California in the US. His life overall was pretty ordinary, except that his mother and father did divorce at a really young age, and I believe he lived with the mother, who actually started dating this guy who was an alcoholic and very abusive to Weaver when he was younger. They actually decided at this point to move to Portland, Oregon, which is why he was in Oregon as an adult. Weaver started to show some antisocial behavior, and his sister had actually come out when they were older and said that he had been sexually violent towards other people and was just a very violent and aggressive man. Another teenage relative of Weaver had actually come out and say that he multiple times had raped and abused her when they were both younger. And later in Weaver's life, in 1993, he had actually his wife had filed for a divorce from him, Maria Weaver, as she just didn't think that he was a good man for her. And she filed for divorce, and not only just divorce, a restraining order, as she was afraid of him. He then later found a new girlfriend, whose name was Christy Sloan, and she had also said that he beat her. And there was one time when I believe he used a cast iron skillet to beat her. So he was very violent and just not a great person. Okay, so now that you have a little information on this man, I'm going to take you to something that was happening kind of alongside the timeline of the crime. So remember how I said that Miranda had gone missing in March? Okay, so around this time, Weaver III had actually asked his son to help him dig a hole out in their backyard, as he told him that they would be putting in a hot tub or jacuzzi. Obviously, his son was very excited to have a jacuzzi, and so obviously he helped him out, and they dug a hole. One morning it was just a hole. The next day, the son had noticed that it was filled with concrete. So obviously he was a little confused about that, but I guess maybe he figured, okay, they needed a concrete foundation to put the hot tub on top of. It would make sense that they had to fill it. So the FBI had formally announced that they had a couple of suspects, and Weaver was actually known in the city to be one of those suspects. And so the news channel, KATU Television, which I'm assuming is just a local television, had actually gone to his home to interview him, and when they interviewed him, he came out and he stepped on top of this concrete slab. They asked him a few questions, and he answered all their questions, and when the people actually confronted him and said, "Oh, what's this new concrete slab you have here? This looks really new," he said, "I'm putting in a jacuzzi. The last time I checked, that wasn't against the law." So the detectives had seen this interview, and I mean, a lot of people had seen this interview. It was broadcasted on television, and a lot of people were really off-put by that comment. It seemed like he was hiding something under that concrete slab, and someone who noticed this was Miranda's mother, and she was very suspect of this concrete slab. It just seems suspicious that a little while after these girls go missing, a concrete slab is just in his backyard. Kind of sus. On August 13th, 2002, Weaver's son had actually called the police as his girlfriend said that Weaver had tried to sexually assault her. Obviously, the police came and they arrested him immediately, except this time they came with a search warrant, as now that there was just another sexual crime on his criminal history, they definitely believed that it was just time to get a search warrant, and so they did. I'm not really sure what this search warrant entailed, however, I'm sure it was just to kind of look around the house and find anything suspect. And they did. So when police came to search the property, they had actually noticed a sign had been put up which read, "Dig me up," right next to the concrete slab. It was later found out that Ashley's mother had put it there as she really strongly believed that her daughter was in that concrete slab, and she wanted them to find her daughter, and she just knew that her daughter had to be there. And so during the search on August 24th of 2002, the police found the remains of Miranda Gaddis in an empty microwave box in the shed behind Weaver III's home. And on the 25th, so just a day later, they found Ashley's body in a 55-pound bucket underneath the slab of concrete. And they had to use dental records to identify her, as they probably couldn't tell just based on decomposition. And I'm sure we're going to take a little break from the case. A lot of you that have seen Megan is Missing realize, oh shit, this is a really big similarity between the two cases, as Megan was actually put in a 55-gallon barrel as well, and so was Amy later in the story. So this was, I think, one of the biggest details, besides obviously the two girls going missing a few months after each other and being friends, that kind of tied the movie to this case. After this new information had come through, after they had found the body, this blew up all over the country, as a lot of people really did and were touched by this case, as it was just so tragic to see 2 young girls stolen from life, and just a lot of people really taken aback by this case. So it was all over the Oregonian, which is the Oregon newspaper there, the People magazine, the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, and the BBC. So this was truly a case that was all over and very widespread. Sorry guys, my camera keeps shutting off. It's not used to me filming this long of videos. So we're at the 24-minute mark. This is probably gonna get edited down to like 20 minutes though, so don't worry about it. But yeah, so I'm gonna continue with a list of his indictments. Also, I saw the lighting is being a biatch right now. I'm so sorry guys. The sun just came out of nowhere and now it's like right here. So I'm really sorry. I can't really get rid of it. It's the sun. Okay, so now I'm gonna read off all the charges that he was indicted and charged with. So he was charged with 6 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of abuse, 2 counts of abuse of a corpse in the 2nd degree, 1 count of sexual abuse in the 1st degree, 1 count of attempted rape in the 2nd degree, 1 count of attempted aggravated murder, 1 count of 1st degree attempted rape, 1 count of sexual abuse in the 1st degree, 1 count of sexual abuse in the 2nd degree, and 2 counts of sexual abuse in the 3rd degree. Okay, so obviously there was a lot of charges that he was in fact charged with. On September of 2004, Weaver had pled guilty to 2 charges and basically no contest to the rest, which I had to look up what no contest meant because I heard it on like Law and Order, but I didn't really know what it meant. So no contest basically means you won't admit that you did what you did, so you don't admit to guilt, but you do accept the charges. So it's basically like saying, I didn't murder those girls, but I will say that I did in order to not get the death penalty, because basically that was the plea deal that he had taken, because he took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. He had to plead guilty to 2 charges and no contest to the rest. So after he was charged guilty, obviously because he pled guilty, he was given 2 life sentences with no chance of parole, because I think due to the severity of the crimes. After the case had basically ended, Weaver's son has publicly come out and shown a lot of disdain towards his father and is really disgusted by his actions, obviously. And he says that he's just so embarrassed and just disgusted that a man like that could bring him into the world, someone who's just filled with such evil and disgusting. Hey guys, welcome to Edited Dante. So I'm going through my video right now, just trying to make sure everything is looking good, gotta edit it, whatever. And I was doing a little research after the fact just because I was reading about some more articles, and I saw something that was actually really interesting about his son. So his son actually was also charged with murder, as he had murdered, I believe, a drug dealer with some of his friends. And this case is really interesting on another level, as a lot of people use this case to cite like, well, if the parents, because Weaver's dad was a murderer, and then also his son and him, so people were saying this was like a really interesting case, as it showed how like a murder gene could be a thing and how genetics could play into someone's violent tendencies and whatever. So I just wanted to add that really quick. A couple years after, in 2009, Miranda's sister, Mariah, had wanted to visit Weaver in prison just to kind of get some closure of her own, because I feel like it's just really hard to heal from something like this. I mean, I think she was a little younger than her sister, so to see your older sister kind of taken, brutally murdered, and sexually assaulted is just like a really horrendous thing to experience. So I think she really needed that closure so she could get closure for herself. So when she had visited him, he admitted to killing them with his bare hands, and he had actually planned to get her next. Yes. So I don't know if that was the closure that she wanted, but I think it might have been kind of relieving to hear like that he did do it and that he's finally admitting it and just owning up to his actions and what he's done. Although I don't really know how you can heal from a thing like that, especially when he literally told her, you were next. It's just such a horrendous thing to go through, and I really do hope the rest of the family can heal from this as well. So now that the case is kind of over, I just wanted to talk about some stuff afterwards. So the Weaver house in March of 2020 was actually transformed into a place of sanctuary run by a church coalition for all those who need a safe place to stay. I feel like a lot of people did not want to live in this house, especially since the 2 girls' bodies were buried in the backyard. I feel like there's a lot of bad energy and people just really don't want to live in an environment like that. And yeah guys, that completes the case of Miranda Gaddis and Ashley Pond. I really hope you guys learned something from this video, and maybe you found it really interesting that the movie Megan is Missing is based off of this case, as I'm sure after listening to me speak, you could kind of hear some of the similarities between the 2 stories. I mean, for me it was the barrel, the fact that these 2 girls had gone missing, and just all of these little pieces. And yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting case to research. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did like my video. Please do not be shy to comment anything down below that you guys think I could work on. I'm totally open to constructive criticism, and I really want to make my channel better. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing true crime videos. We'll have to see how this comes out, what you guys think of it. But yeah, so let me know down below what you guys think, and subscribe if you want to hear my schmexy voice every single week or month or year. I don't know when I'll post, but you'll just, if you want to support me, please subscribe. It'd be really cool. Okay guys, I love you so much, and I don't really have anything else to say, so bye!